Hi, and welcome to lesson 5.0. This is the concept section for stage five, which is talking about going from $10,000 in sales to 100,000 and beyond. And to be watching this section, unless if you're just trying to learn in advance, just in case learning, which we talked about earlier, you're more than welcome to watch along. But this section is really intended for people that are already at the $10,000 plus in total sales volume. The reason for that is that these are the principles that we're going to cover are talking about we should already be at a point where we're putting in $1 at a very high level. We're putting in $1, getting $2 to $3 back consistently in terms of our investment into the business, specifically with our Facebook ads. And now we're at the, honestly, in my opinion, the even more fun stage of how do we put in, $10,000, get 20 to 30,000 back. Then how do we put in 100,000, 200 to 300? You get where I'm going with it. But first, to recap what we've done up until this point, we've covered our foundations where we laid out the all the course curriculum, all of the nitty gritty that we need to know in terms of laying our foundations as business owners, and then we did a deep dive into our personal foundations, laying into our mindset, different growth tools, limiting internal thoughts that we have, and how we can push through a lot of that stuff basically sharpened our axe before we dove into stage one, which was when we did our research. And if you're at this point now of having done already $10,000 in sales at a profitable or at the very least break even ROAS, that means that you did all of these stages very well. Maybe you had to come back and revisit them at some points, which is completely normal, but you did your research. And this is going to be something that we're going to refer back to to help us scale throughout the rest of this section. But we did all of our research, then we built out our stores, our accounts, and then we started designing where we did all of our mock-ups. We hadn't run any ads or anything yet, but we made all of our mock-ups, we made all of our designs, and then we put those mock-ups and designs on our store. But first, we ran a mock-up test, which was to see which one of our mock-ups performed the best before we doubled down. And then once we found the winner, then we started testing out our designs. And we also did a little bit of email marketing in this stage as well, which is just so that as we're driving the traffic, we're building up our email list. So now by this stage, you've surpassed the foundational phases and you should have generated at least $10,000 in total sales. And in this stage, we're going to be talking about how we can ramp things up and take it to a whole nother level. And this is where things get really exciting. So we're going to be covering selling internationally, more advanced email marketing so we can increase that email as a percentage of revenue of our total sales. We're going to be setting up Google Ads, diving into more advanced Facebook ad strategies. It's not like you have to become even more of a data scientist or anything. It's just like the strategies change up and how can we maintain consistency in our accounts as we scale. And then we're going to be talking about how we scale operations and all like the back end stuff that doesn't get talked about too often so we can maximize our profitability. Then by the end of this stage, we're going to have expanded our sales internationally, have our active email campaigns running where we're sending them out twice per week. And we'll have expanded our Facebook ad campaigns to increase ad spend while maintaining performance to the best of our ability. And we'll also have an effective Google ad strategy. So congrats. This is a huge milestone and it's something to be extremely proud of. The important thing to take away from this is that we don't want to lose momentum because everything's going to get bigger. Like everything that we were doing in stages 0 through 4, that was really laying the groundwork. And as you saw in like the graphics where there's the line, the dividing point between the testing stage and 10K is because that's like where a lot of people end up dropping off because that's where, we're the most vulnerable, all the things we talked about, but you push through that. And now the really important thing is that you're still running the business the exact same way. You're just bringing in a much, much larger audience, but the fundamentals don't really change at all. This is just where we start to like really scale things up. Scaling at this level means us asking a couple of key questions like how can I sell more to my current audience? How can I reach new customers globally? And how can I ensure that every dollar spent on ads and, our back end operations yields the highest return possible? These are some things to be thinking about. We're going to be shifting our focus into 3 main areas. So expanding internationally, and the reason we haven't done that up until now is that it's just a complete splintering of our focus. If we had started selling internationally prematurely, yes, we could have done it in the testing stage and it would have gotten us some decent results. But in my experience, especially for people who were just starting out, starting to do that too early on results in like a much worse like a long-term outcome because they end up trying to catch two things at once. So it's good that you've held off on that up until now. Now we're also going to be smoothing out our operations and then doing more advanced marketing. So I'll cut to the chase here. The thing I really want you to get away from or take away from this section, the concept section for 10K, is keep doing exactly what is working. Do not reinvent the wheel. Really lock in for this part. You have put in so much effort and so much work, and you have grown so much just getting to this 10K point. Now, if you just follow along with the things that we lay out here, it's going to seem repetitive and it's going to seem overly simple, and it is. And the reason I'm leaning into this so hard is that I made this same mistake so many times that as soon as things started going well, I thought that business was, I needed to start glomming stuff on. So I would start adding new product types, and, I would basically fall into this shiny object syndrome. And, you know, that meme's hilarious. A lot of people, I've heard this from a lot of people. They hit 10K, then I'm like, awesome. Like, let's start scaling it up. They're like, yeah. So the way I'm going to do that is adding new product types, selling on different marketplaces. And it's okay. Like, I get it. I made the same mistake, but I'm in the business of helping people get the best results possible with the least amount of time and mistakes and heartache that I had to go through. But then it's up to each and every one of us to decide, if we want to listen to that advice or not. But what I can say is that I've gone from 0 to $1 million plus on 8 different stores, which I don't say that to brag. It'd be way cooler if I said that I went from 0 to multiple 8 figures a year on one brand. But anyway, regardless, I have built up the skill set, for better or for worse, definitely for worse, of going from 0 to multiple 7 figures over and over and over again. So that's what we're sharing. This is never coming from a place of like, I think you should do this. It's no, I'm looking back in the past at the mistakes that I made, and then recently getting to look at student stores who have gone from 0 to 10K and then from 10K to 100K, and what were their patterns? What were the similarities? They're almost always identical because the business just needs what it needs. It doesn't really change over time. Like, the target doesn't move. So if things start to feel repetitive, that's a good thing. The time that, the person teaching you starts changing their tune, that's not okay, new strategies. That means that like their original basis for what they were saying was not as rock solid as they made it seem. So the target is not going to move. It's been the same. So don't get distracted by new opportunities. And back to this. So don't be adding new product types. Like we added like kid sizes and 5XLs to history tees, and absolutely nobody bought them. And then on our 0 to 7 figure store, we have crew necks, hoodies, tank tops, and then t-shirts, obviously. And we added them for like all of our top sellers, and 95%, despite having all those other 3 to 4 other product types, t-shirts still year round makes up 95% of our sales. 95%. So all of that time that we invested into adding those new product types would have been much better spent just reinvesting it into what was already working, just more t-shirt designs. And around this time, also another important concept, I'm going to keep sounding like a broken record, run your P&L daily. Your P&L and your balance sheet, run your finances on a daily basis. And you should also know your numbers cold. I'm not just talking about your finance numbers. I'm talking about your main metrics and KPIs. That should be what your eat, breathe, sleeping is, your metrics and your KPIs. Like, you should know right off the cuff what has been your conversion rate over the last like 30 days. Roughly, what is your conversion rate? What's your average order value? What's your cost per link click? How much are you spending on ads? And you should know those things not only because it helps us answer your questions faster on like group coaching calls and stuff like that, but anytime I ask somebody, like if somebody's on a group call and they ask a question, I go, okay, like help me answer that. Like, what's your cost per link click? Or what's your conversion rate? And like they're saying that their ROAS is low. And then I say like, okay, what's your conversion rate? They're like, I'll have to check. Like, is that in Facebook? And I'm like, I don't even need you to pull it up. I know why your ROAS is low. It's because you don't know that. And it's not just about being able to regurgitate the number for a group call. It's more about like what it's reflective of. And it shows like where your focus has been. So our focus needs to be on what is the top high level metrics. It's cost per link click, conversion rate, average order value, and then email as a percentage of revenue, all the stuff in your tracker. You should be reviewing that on a daily basis. That's where your time should be spent. Your time should not be spent on new product types, launching on Etsy, like stuff like that. Just in my experience, in my opinion, because I've tried all those things, and every time that I gotten away from just the fundamentals, and somebody had a great post in the community after they hit $100,000, it was 100,000 euros actually in sales. They put it way better than I ever have. And they said that at this point, I think it's more likely that hell will freeze over or something like that. hell will freeze over before the fundamentals stop working. And they said, yeah, I hit 100,000 euros plus in sales. All that I've been doing is just adding more designs and just rinsing and repeating the same process. If you look across all the most successful students, that's the same thing holds true. I've yet to see a student who says, I tried this new weird hack, or this new whatever guru told me to do this and then it worked. I've yet to see that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but so avoid shiny object syndrome like it's the plague. Focus on your numbers and just rinse and repeat, and really hear this part. The path from 10 to 100K is just doing more of the thing you've already been doing. It does not change. We're going to improve each one of those areas now. So in the beginning, we were trying a bunch of different stuff. Now we're just improving the things we were already doing. That means just launching more ads, more testing ads, launching more designs. So 5 to 7 new designs per day, improving your email sequences, and just rinsing and repeating that. And then adding on international, and that's another form of just improving. It's really like international, to like bucket it in terms of a metric. That's really just improving like your ad performance, because it's opening up the possible reach of people that's able to hit, and the larger the audience, the less competition, that whole sort of thing. But that's where our focus is. And so a question that you can be asking yourself as you go through this process is, you need to gut check yourself now more than ever. Like, what am I working on, and is this what the business actually needs? And the tricky thing is that your brain is very good at convincing you that the thing you're working on is what the business needs, when a lot of times it's not. In addition to that, don't get complacent. I see a lot of people, like, once they hit like a decent amount in sales, they start inventing problems for themselves. And whereas if they just kept doing a lot more of what they were already doing, it would have gone much better. I know I sound like a broken record, but this is like, you put in all the work to get to this point. Now do yourself the favor of doing what you need in order to get to the 100K level. And this is also the point that if you haven't joined the university up until this point, I truly believe that joining the university has the potential to change a lot of people's lives. And the people that we can help like, we can help everybody at all stages, like, and not just myself and the coaches and Meg, but like everybody in the community helping each other. But once you hit the 10K level, you should absolutely be joining. And it's just my personal opinion, but once you hit 10,000, like, it's not the amount of effort and like problem or troubleshooting that you have when you're going from 0 to 10. Going from 0 to 10 is way harder than going from 10 to 100. 10 to 100 is just learning to see the knobs and dials that you have in your business, and then learning which one you have to tweak and when and how much. That's literally just a skill set that you build up over time. So when you join the university, there's 8-figure coaches plus myself and Meg, then hundreds of hours, actually over 1,000 hours of recordings now, live Q&As every single week, super collaborative community, like, of people who are just awesome, accountability groups / cohorts, constantly updated trainings. That's where, we release the 21-hour super long course once per year, but then we're constantly in the university watching. Like, that's our priority. Those are the people that we make it absolute number one priority for us to make sure that we're answering all of the people's questions in there, and not just help answering people's questions, helping them learn the things for themselves, helping them like pick it up, not just like drop the questions on the doorstep, because that doesn't really help anybody. You have to learn the fundamentals for yourself. But anyway, we're constantly updating the trainings in there based on what we see people need the most help with. So, and there's also way more than can possibly fit on a single slide. So if you're at this point, I highly recommend joining. And again, there's 30-day money back guarantee, absolutely 0 questions asked. Everybody who joins will have the absolute most phenomenal community experience that they've ever had in their entire life, or they will get their money back. That's my guarantee. And we showed screenshots earlier of like proving how we've done that. But hopefully by now, if you've listened to me this long, you know that I mean what I say, and I'm not doing the exact opposite of selling this for anything more than it is. If anything, I paint it in like a even more challenging light than what it actually is, but I think it's better to err on that side of caution. All that said and done, congratulations on hitting $10,000 in sales, and I look forward to scaling together. Bye.